Have you ever felt like life is pressing in from all sides? The storms seem relentless, the weight feels unbearable, and you wonder, how am I going to make it through? Maybe you've prayed, you've believed, but nothing seems to change, and now doubt is creeping in. Let me remind you today, God sees you. He hasn't forgotten you, and He hasn't left you. Just like He calmed the storm for the disciples, He's working behind the scenes for you. That storm may feel overwhelming, but God's peace is greater. Get ready, your breakthrough is closer than you think. Let me tell you something, friends, life is not always easy. There are days when it feels like the weight of the world is pressing down on your shoulders, when nothing seems to make sense, and the road ahead feels uncertain. Maybe you've been praying for a breakthrough, but instead of answers, you're met with silence. Maybe the storm you're facing feels like it's never going to pass. But can I encourage you today? Trust the process, even in the chaos. Trust that God has not brought you this far to leave you now. You see, it's in those moments when life feels the most uncertain that God is doing some of His greatest work. You may not see it yet, but He's weaving together a plan so much greater than anything you could imagine. I think about Joseph in the Bible. He had a dream, a vision of greatness that God had placed in his heart. But before that dream became a reality, he was thrown into a pit by his own brothers, sold into slavery, and wrongfully imprisoned. Can you imagine how confusing that must have been? Joseph could have thought, God, what happened to the dream you gave me? Why does it feel like everything is falling apart? But Joseph didn't give up. He didn't let the chaos around him steal the peace within him. He trusted the process. And you know what? God used every single one of those setbacks to prepare him for the incredible future that was waiting for him. What looked like the end was actually the beginning of something amazing. And that same God who is faithful to Joseph is faithful to you. He hasn't forgotten about you. He sees every tear, every sleepless night, every moment when you felt like giving up. And He's saying, hold on, I'm not finished yet. What I started in you, I will bring to completion. You may not understand the why behind your struggle right now, but let me remind you, God sees the whole picture. He's working behind the scenes in ways you can't even begin to comprehend. The pain, the disappointments, the delays, they're not wasted. They're not random. They're part of a divine process to shape you, strengthen you, and position you for the blessings He has in store. I know it's hard. I know waiting is uncomfortable. I know trusting when you don't have all the answers can feel like walking in the dark. But that's where faith comes in. Faith isn't about having all the answers. It's about trusting the one who does. It's about saying, God, I don't see how this is going to work out, but I trust that you do. I don't understand the path you've chosen for me, but I believe it's leading me to something good. So when life feels overwhelming, remind yourself of this. The chaos is temporary, but God's plan is eternal. The struggle may last for a season, but His promises last forever. Don't let the storm shake your faith. Don't let the delay make you doubt His goodness. He's still on the throne. He's still in control. And He's working all things together for your good. Friend, your job is not to figure out every detail. Your job is to trust, to believe, to stay faithful in the waiting. Keep showing up, keep praying, keep declaring His promises over your life. And let His love remind you that you're not alone, that you're not forgotten, that you're held in the palm of His hand. I believe with all my heart that what you're walking through right now is not the end of your story. It's just the middle. And the middle might be messy, but the ending is glorious. You're being prepared for something greater than you could imagine. So don't give up. Don't lose heart. Trust the process, even in the chaos, because the God who began a good work in you will be faithful to complete it. And when you come out on the other side, you'll look back and see that every tear, every trial, every moment of confusion was worth it. You'll see that God was with you all along, working it all out for your victory. Keep trusting, keep believing, and watch what He will do. Let me remind you today, no matter what you're facing, you don't have to live in fear. You don't have to let the storms of life dictate your peace or your joy. Life will throw challenges your way, unexpected setbacks, difficulties you didn't see coming. But here's the good news. You don't have to face them alone. When you're anchored in faith, you become unshakable, no matter how strong the winds may blow. You're not standing in your own strength. You're standing in the strength of the Almighty God, the one who speaks to storms and they obey, the one who says, fear not, for I am with you. Maybe right now you feel like the waves are crashing all around you. Maybe you've received bad news or you're overwhelmed by a situation that feels out of your control. It's easy to focus on the size of the storm, isn't it? It's easy to get caught up in the what ifs and let fear creep into your heart. But can I encourage you today? Don't focus on the waves, focus on the one who walks on the water. Focus on the one who promised never to leave you, never to forsake you. Do you remember the story of Jesus and His disciples in the boat? A fierce storm arose. and the disciples were terrified. They were experienced fishermen. They had faced storms before. But this one was different. It was intense, overwhelming beyond their ability to control. They woke Jesus, who was sleeping peacefully, and said, "Lord, don't you care that we're about to perish?" Jesus got up, spoke to the wind and the waves, and said, "Peace, be still." And just like that, the storm calmed. Now I want you to notice something. The disciples were focused on the storm, but Jesus was at peace in the middle of it. Why? Because he knew who was in control. He knew the storm wasn't bigger than his Father's power. And the same is true for you. Whatever you're going through, it's not bigger than God. The storm may feel overwhelming, but the one who calms the storm lives inside of you. His peace is not dependent on the absence of trouble. It's dependent on his unchanging presence in your life. When fear tries to creep in, you have a choice. You can let it take root, or you can anchor yourself in faith. You can remind yourself that God has brought you through storms before, and he'll bring you through this one too. You can declare, "This situation may be beyond me, but it's not beyond my God. I don't know how it's going to work out, but I trust the one who holds the future in his hands." The enemy would love nothing more than to fill your heart with doubt, to make you believe that the storm will never end, that God has forgotten you. But let me tell you, that's a lie. God has not brought you this far to leave you. He's still in control. He's still fighting for you, and he's still speaking peace over your life. When fear knocks at your door, answer it with faith. Say, "God, I trust you. I may not understand, but I believe you're working all things for my good." You see, fear can't stay where faith is. Worry can't take root in a heart that's anchored in God's promises. That's why it's so important to fill your mind with his word. Declare his truth over your life. "I am more than a conqueror through Christ who loves me. No weapon formed against me will prosper. Greater is he who is in me than he who is in the world." When you speak those words, fear loses its power. The storm may rage, but your heart can remain calm. Let this be your reminder. You are not alone in the storm. The same God who calmed the sea for the disciples is calming the storm in your life. It may not happen overnight, but you can trust that his timing is perfect. You can trust that he's working behind the scenes, orchestrating things for your good, his glory. So lift your head, child of God. Refuse to let fear have the final say. Stand strong in your faith, knowing that the one who created the heavens and the earth is holding you in the palm of his hand. You are loved, you are chosen, and you are secure. And when this storm passes, you'll look back and see how God carried you through. You'll see that his peace sustained you, his presence strengthened you, and his promises were true all along. Stay anchored in faith and watch what he will do. Victory is on the way. Let me encourage you today, friends, you don't have to have everything figured out. You don't have to carry the weight of the world on your shoulders. Life has a way of throwing us curveballs, unexpected challenges, things we didn't plan for. And when that happens, the temptation is to try and take control of it all. We think, "I can just fix this. If I can just manage that, then everything will be okay." But can I remind you of something? You were never meant to carry that burden alone. God didn't create you to live stressed, worried, and trying to figure out every detail. He created you to trust him, to lean on him, and to surrender the things you can't control. It's not always easy to let go, is it? Our human nature wants to hold on tight, to try and solve everything ourselves. But the truth is, there are some things only God can do. You weren't designed to have all the answers, and that's okay. You don't have to. You serve a God who holds the universe in his hands, a God who sees the end from the beginning, a God who is working behind the scenes in ways you can't even imagine. The Bible tells us in Proverbs 3:5-6, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will direct your paths." Notice it doesn't say figure everything out and then trust in the Lord. It doesn't say worry about how it's all going to work out and then God will step in. No, it says to trust him with all your heart. That means even when you don't understand, even when the situation seems impossible, even when you've done all you can and it still doesn't seem to be enough, trust him. Maybe today you're facing something that feels overwhelming. Maybe it's a health issue, a financial challenge, a strained relationship. You've done everything you know to do, and it still feels like it's not working. Let me encourage you, you don't have to carry it all by yourself. You can release it into God's hands. You can say, "Lord, I've done what I can. Now I'm trusting you to do what I can't. I'm trusting you to open the right doors, to bring the right people, to make a way where there seems to be no way." There's a peace that comes when you release control. When you stop trying to figure it all out and you say, "God, I trust you," It's like a weight is lifted off your shoulders. That's because you're no longer carrying something you were never meant to carry. You're putting it into the hands of the one who is all-powerful, all-knowing, and always faithful. Think about the story of the Israelites at the Red Sea. They were trapped with the sea in front of them and Pharaoh's army behind them. They couldn't see a way out. But Moses told them, do not be afraid. Stand still and see the salvation of the Lord. He didn't tell them to figure out how to cross the sea. He didn't tell them to come up with a plan to fight the Egyptian army. He told them to stand still and trust God. And what did God do? He parted the sea and made a way where there was no way. God can do the same thing for you. He can make a way in your situation. But you have to trust Him enough to let go. You have to release your need to control every detail and surrender it to Him. That doesn't mean you stop doing your part. Do what you can, but don't stress over what you can't. Trust that God is working all things together for your good. Every time you feel anxiety creeping in, every time you're tempted to worry about how it's all going to work out, remind yourself, I'm not in this alone. God is fighting my battles. He's working behind the scenes. He's making a way for me. Speak it out loud if you have to. There's power in your words. When you declare your trust in God, it strengthens your faith and silences the voice of fear. Friend, you don't have to control everything to see God's promises come to pass. You just have to trust Him. You just have to believe that He's working even when you can't see it. And when you do, you'll experience a peace that surpasses all understanding. You'll see doors open that you couldn't open on your own. You'll see Him turn what the enemy meant for harm into something good. So let go of the worry, let go of the stress, control what you can, and surrender the rest to God. He's got you in the palm of His hand. He's working it all out for your good. And when the time is right, you'll see the victory He has prepared for you. Keep trusting, keep believing, and watch what He will do. Victory is coming. Let me remind you today, the words you speak have power. They have the ability to shape your life, to influence your attitude, and to change your perspective. When you're facing challenges, when life feels uncertain, it's so easy to let negative words slip out. It's easy to say, I don't know how I'm going to make it, or nothing ever works out for me. But can I encourage you? Don't speak defeat over your situation. Don't give voice to fear or doubt. Instead, speak peace, speak faith, speak hope. The Bible tells us in Proverbs 18:21, the tongue has the power of life and death. That means your words aren't just empty sounds, they're seeds. When you speak words of fear, you're planting seeds of fear. When you speak words of worry, you're planting seeds of worry. But when you speak words of peace, you're planting seeds of peace. When you declare God's promises over your life, you're planting seeds of faith. And let me tell you, those seeds will grow. They'll take root in your heart and mind, and before long, they'll begin to shape how you see your situation. Think about Jesus. One day, He and His disciples were in a boat, and a fierce storm arose. The wind was howling, the waves were crashing, and the disciples were terrified. They thought they were going to drown. But Jesus stood up, looked at the storm, and said, "Peace, be still." And just like that, the wind stopped, the waves calmed, and everything became still. Jesus didn't panic. He didn't let the chaos around Him get inside Him. Instead, He spoke peace. And that same power to speak peace lives inside of you. You may not be able to control the storm you're facing, but you can control the words you speak in the middle of it. You can choose to say, I may not see the solution yet, but I know God is working behind the scenes. I may not understand why this is happening, but I trust that God is in control. This storm may feel overwhelming, but I believe God's peace is greater than any challenge I'm facing. When you speak those words, you're not just encouraging yourself, you're activating your faith. You're inviting God's peace into your heart, into your mind, and into your situation. Maybe right now, you're in a season where things feel uncertain. You've been praying, believing, doing all you know to do, but the answer hasn't come yet. Can I encourage you, don't let your words reflect the size of your problem, let them reflect the size of your God. Instead of saying, I don't see how this is going to work out, say, I know God is making a way for me. Instead of saying, this is too hard, say, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Instead of saying, I'm stuck, say, God is ordering my steps and He's leading me into something greater. When you speak peace, you're not denying the reality of your situation, you're declaring a greater truth over it. You're saying, yes, this is a challenge, but my God is bigger. Yes, this is difficult, but I believe His grace is sufficient. Yes, the storm is real, but so is my faith. And friends, that kind of faith is powerful. It doesn't just change how you see your situation, it invites God to work in ways you never imagined. Remember, what you say in the storm matters. Your words can either magnify the problem or magnify the promise. So choose to magnify the promise. Choose to speak life. Choose to speak peace. When fear tries to creep in, say, God, I trust You. You are my refuge and my strength. an ever-present help in trouble. When doubt tries to take hold, say, God, I know you're faithful. You've brought me through before, and you'll do it again. When the enemy whispers lies, respond with the truth of God's word. Friend, you don't have to let the chaos around you steal the peace within you. You have the power to speak peace, to declare God's promises, and to hold on to hope. And when you do, you'll find that the storm may rage, but your heart can remain calm. The winds may blow, but your faith will stand firm. You'll see that God's peace isn't just a feeling, it's a force. It's a force that strengthens you, sustains you, and carries you through to the other side. So today, make the decision to speak peace. Let your words reflect your faith, not your fear. Let them declare the goodness of God, the faithfulness of His promises, and the victory that's already yours. And as you do, I believe you'll see God move in ways you never expected. You'll see Him calm the storm, open the doors, and lead you into a season of blessing and breakthrough. Keep speaking peace and watch what God will do. Victory's coming. Let me remind you today, God has equipped you with everything you need to handle whatever comes your way. Life isn't always easy. There are seasons when the road feels long, the challenges feel heavy, and the answers don't seem to come. But can I encourage you? You are stronger than you think. You are more resilient than you realize. And you have the Creator of the universe breathing life into your spirit, filling you with His power, His grace, and His peace. You're not walking through this journey alone. God is walking with you, and He's given you the tools to overcome. It's easy to look at a tough situation and feel inadequate. You might think, I don't have what it takes. I'm not strong enough, smart enough, or brave enough to face this, but let me tell you, those thoughts are not from God. The enemy would love for you to believe you're powerless, that you're unequipped, that you're going to fall apart under the pressure. But that's a lie. God has already placed inside of you everything you need to face whatever comes your way. He's given you His strength, His wisdom, His courage, and His Spirit. The Bible says in 2 Timothy 1:7, "For God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind." That means fear doesn't belong to you. Anxiety doesn't belong to you. Those aren't your inheritance. What God has given you is power, the power to stay calm in the storm, the power to overcome challenges, the power to walk in victory. He's given you love, the kind of love that casts out fear, the kind of love that strengthens your relationships and helps you see others through His eyes. And He's given you a sound mind, a mind that's stable, strong, and filled with His peace. Think about David in the Bible. He faced a giant named Goliath, someone bigger, stronger, and more experienced than him. From the outside, it looked like David didn't stand a chance. But David didn't focus on what he lacked. He focused on what God had given him. He picked up 5 smooth stones and a slingshot, tools that seemed insignificant, and with God's help, he defeated the giant. What's my point? God has already given you what you need to face your giant. It may not look like enough to the world, but when you put it in God's hands, it becomes more than enough. Maybe right now, you're facing a situation that feels overwhelming. You're wondering if you're strong enough to get through it. Let me tell you, you are, not because of your own strength, but because of God's strength in you. Philippians 4:13 says, "I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me." That means there's nothing you'll face that God hasn't already equipped you for. There's no challenge too big, no mountain too high, no valley too low. With God's strength, you can face anything. When the pressure comes, when the doubts creep in, remind yourself, I'm equipped for this. I'm anointed for this. I'm not walking in my own strength. I'm walking in God's strength. Speak it out loud if you have to. There's power in your words. When you declare God's truth over your life, it silences the lies of the enemy. It strengthens your faith and reminds you of who you are and whose you are. You're not weak, you're strong. You're not unprepared, you're equipped. You're not a victim, you're a victor. God didn't bring you this far to leave you. He didn't call you to this challenge without giving you the tools to overcome it. So don't let fear hold you back. Don't let doubt steal your confidence. Stand firm in the knowledge that you are equipped for every good work, prepared for every challenge, and destined for victory. You may not see the way forward right now, but trust that God does. He's already gone before you, preparing the path. He's already worked out the details, opened the doors, and made a way. Your job is to trust Him, to keep moving forward, and to use what He's placed in your hands. It may feel like just a slingshot and a few stones, but with God on your side, it's more than enough. So lift your head high. Walk with confidence. Face your challenges knowing that you are equipped, you are empowered, and you are loved by the one who holds the universe in His hands. And when you come out on the other side of this storm, and you'll see that God's strength in you was more than enough. Victory is yours. Keep trusting, keep believing, and watch what God will do.